Choccy Thunder, welcome to the Grapple Theory podcast. It's been a long time coming trying to get you on here, but finally we've got you on and we're recording and it's going to be a wonderful chat, I'm sure. How is everything going? Obviously, we ask people generally about their last 12 months in wrestling, and for you I think it's probably been a bit more intense than most others. Let's start with how are you feeling now? How is everything now? Are you okay now? What's the situation with yourself?
I think a few days ago, or almost a week ago, tested positive for COVID, which was obviously not expected. I was quite ill, but luckily I had some medication to help me through it, and feeling a lot better now, testing negative. Still sort of feeling the side effects of it, but yeah, feeling all right. As far as the past 12 months go, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, with everything that happened quite recently, and sort of having treatment and sort of getting back to normal. There's been a lot of ups and downs. I'll say that much.
Is there more ups than downs now? Like COVID aside, are we talking more ups than downs now than say this time a year ago?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to that's coming up in the future. Obviously, getting back in the ring and sort of getting around to more promotions, and I guess picking up where I left off before I had to stop. So I'd say there's more ups on the horizon, definitely.
That's always good. That's what we like to hear. That's always positive. I mean, talk to me about that, because obviously, again, battling cancer is never an easy thing. I mean, take me back to the beginning. Were you still wrestling when you sort of clicked that something was wrong?
Yeah, so just to talk about it, basically, I noticed there were some things that were not quite right. I was getting quite tired quite easily, and obviously there were some things on my body that I noticed weren't as normal. So I went to see a doctor who put me through a load of tests, and basically, there's so many tests I had to do, blood tests, there was CT scans, there was breathing tests, there was all sorts of things I had to do. And eventually I had sort of minor surgery to do a little biopsy on and to find out what the problem was. And it was a long wait to find out the results of everything. So I was still working, I was still living my normal life. And when I got the results, I remember it quite clearly, because it was a day before the hottest day of the year last year. So it was blazing hot. I remember it really well. And I got called into hospital and told the results and what had happened and my diagnosis. And so, they obviously taught me through treatment and said, we'll start it now. And I think the last show I did before I started chemo was for Resurgence at the start of August, I want to say.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, I remember seeing you on it, yeah.
Yes, it was the Rumble. I pretty much did that, and then that was it. And I was straight into chemo about a few weeks or so after that.
Yeah, because I remember you sort of announced it publicly on Twitter and stuff. Again, it was after Resurgence, I think.
Yes, it was. I knew for a few weeks beforehand, but I was just obviously waiting. I wanted my friends and family to know first, because it was a personal thing, and then I felt now's the right time to say something.
Yeah. So did Resurgence know at that show? Did you tell them I won't be here for a while, or you can't have me for a while?
I spoke to them beforehand, because once I knew, I spoke to all the promotions that I was supposed to be appearing at, just so they knew the score and knew what was going on, and they were all really understanding. They were obviously your health comes first, but I honoured pretty much all the bookings I could, and got up to the point, and then it was an interesting conversation to say the least, but there's no easy way of breaking news like that. You just got to just come out with it.
No, for sure. Was it tough wrestling during that, before starting the chemo? Was it tough wrestling knowing that you had it and you were going to be hanging up your boots for a while, in the near future? Was that tough?
I'd say no. I'd say it was nice to sort of not think about it, because at the Resurgence show, obviously I knew what was happening, and not many other people knew, but it was nice to almost not think about it and sort of get on with my like normal day-to-day life. So it was almost an escape. So I didn't find it that difficult. I think after that, like trying to like go through like my normal job and like my day-to-day job, that was difficult at times. Yeah, I ended up speaking to people like to sort of vent how I was feeling and sort of discuss it. And it did make me feel a lot better, and it helped me sort of come to terms with everything. So yeah, it was a nice, it was almost like an escape, and it was almost like, yeah, nothing's happening, everything's fine. But
yeah, it's what wrestling is to so many, isn't it? Like at such crucial times, it's just that like that step away from reality, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what it was. That's what it is, still is for me. It's just like it's almost like another world, which sounds a bit weird to say, but that's
no, it is though, isn't it? It's nothing can relate to wrestling and what it is in terms of like the universe it is. It's just it's all on its own in its own little like thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why it's so successful, because it's just a form of media or art that's just it's just an escape from reality. And
Yeah,
I think that's why so many people love it.
yeah. So was it? I mean, obviously, it's a stupid question saying was it tough, like going through it, obviously, and hanging up your boots, but it seemed like, and again, obviously, like not to like sort of undermine it or anything, because there's never a good time to get cancer, but like I imagine it was frustrating in ring wise, because it seemed like you were really having a bit of a rise in your career in the ring when you had to hang up your boots. I imagine that can't have been easy.
Yeah, it really was. Like I said, I'd just done Resurgence, and I got really good feedback after the show, and a lot of people were like really complimentary, and it was like bittersweet almost. It was just like, yeah, I've really smashed this like show, this debut, but I'm not going to be able to do anything for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it was disappointing. I felt that way before COVID hit as well. Like I was just starting to get some momentum, and then obviously everything shut down for like however long it was, and you almost started from the beginning again, which is kind of what it feels like now. But I feel like I've got a bit more presence, and a lot of people are sort of backing me, which is really nice, and it's really like uplifting. So I'm hoping it's not such a I'm hoping I'm not really starting from the beginning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Because you've been back, haven't you? Not in the ring, right? You've been back at wrestling shows, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to Infamous. I think it was last month. I did some comms there. Done some comms for PW at the beginning of the year as well. I went to watch Resurgence's last show that they did. Resurgence Has Fallen, and also, well, I did a bit of in-ring stuff at FTGU last, I think a couple of weeks ago. So that was the first like in-ring stuff I did. It was just like a run-in, basically.
Yeah. How was it? How was it getting back?
It was quite emotional. Yeah, it was. I was just thinking. Yeah, I was trying to concentrate on keeping it together more than anything. It was just sort of. I got a really good reaction as well, so it was nice to sort of get that, and it's one of the things that sort of kept me going through everything I was going through. Just had that moment, when you come back and you're finally able to do what you wanted to do. So yeah, it was really nice, and it was like I still watch the video back like every now and again just to sort of get that feeling again.
Yeah. Was it tough holding it in? Because obviously we like, even as fans know how wrestlers, and we've spoken to people on the podcast as well who in different circumstances have like had to like hold their character together when like internally they're freaking out. Like, is that tough when like you want that emotion sort of like flood forward and like, but there's got to be like, maybe a modicum of holding it back because of what you're doing, like staying in that moment, focusing on what you're doing.
Yeah, it's it is to a degree. It's just you've just got to get your game face on and just focus on what's going on. But yeah, I think because the idea was I basically came out as like the face and just cleared house of all the villains, and so I was just focusing on just like doing what I had to do, and then I think they gave me a mic afterwards, which they didn't plan on, so I sort of had to sort of vent my not vent, just spew my feelings.
Yeah, let it all out.
Yeah, and that was nice. But yeah, it's a weird thing for me. Once you step, I don't know if it's like this for anyone else. I've spoke to a few people about it, but when you're waiting behind the curtain, ready to go out, everything hits you. Like it's just nerves, it's nervous energy, and then but once your music hits and you step out that curtain, for me, it's just like the on switches on and you're going. So there's almost no opportunity to sort of turn around and walk back out. You just got to go and do what you got to do, and that's kind of how I operate.
Yeah. No, I totally understand, because we had like, again, different circumstances, but like we've had like Charlie Morgan on and Alex Windsor, who both like made their returns from like long injury layoffs, and like they were like, behind the curtain, you're pumped, the adrenaline's going, you're sort of overthinking everything, and like, and then as soon as your music hits, it's like, right, okay, now it's go time, and you don't like you say, have that time to even think of anything else.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, well, I can't just walk back out now. I've got to just go and do it. I'm one of those people, like, I don't really get nervous until I'm right at the point where I've got to do, where I'm doing what I've got to do. It's like when you go on a roller coaster, I equate it like this. I'm all right in the queue. I'm fine. It's when I'm sitting in the coaster going up to like start the ride, that's when I sort of go, is this a good idea? And then, but by then it's too late. So I almost force myself past the point of no return. And then I sort of deal with it. Which sounds crazy, but it works.
No, I get it. Like, again, I'm sort of the similar way. Like, obviously, I'm not a wrestler, but like in terms of like anxiety or that like anxious energy and stuff, like sometimes you've got to like push yourself over the edge and then bring yourself back to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I believe it is. I mean, I'm better than I was. I think the more with wrestling, especially, the more you do it, I guess the less nervous you get. I mean, it's always there, no matter who you are and where you are, but you just find better ways of coping with it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of like, again, I mean, going through that entire process that you went through, the chemo and everything, like, obviously, personal life is personal life, but on socials at least, like, it seemed like you were like putting on a super brave face and like really going to town on it, like embracing like the shaved head and like no beard and stuff like that, really like embracing it. Is that something you felt made it easier, like, rather than sort of wallowing of like, oh, I've got to shave my head, stuff like that, like really embracing like the look and the feel of it?
Yeah, I didn't, that was the main reason why I did the whole fundraising thing, because I didn't want to just sit there and feel sorry for myself. Like, I wanted to try and be as positive as I can, which is easier said than done sometimes, but I just like the head shave thing, I said I said as soon as like my hair started falling out that I was just going to shave it off, because I wanted to have some sort of control over it. So just banged the clippers out and just went for it. And with the fundraising thing, I was just like, I just want to do something positive, because having been in like the hospital during treatment and seeing like other people going through the same thing I've been going through, I've been very fortunate that I've had people I can count on, people who can support me and like help me. There are people out there who don't have that, which I can't imagine what that's like, just sort of being on your own for having a fight like that. And they're the kind of people I wanted to try and help. So that's why I did like the fundraising for Macmillan and sort of raised the money with the help of FTGU Wrestling. So that was it. It was a case of just trying to keep myself busy and trying to stay positive throughout the whole thing. And it really helped. Like, it was cathartic, like doing all that stuff on social media to sort of get me through it.
Again, it's that way of getting that emotion out, isn't it? It's something rather than just sitting there and letting it stew.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's obviously, and I get it's a different experience for everyone. Like, everyone has a different experience when they go through chemo or treatment for cancer. But I just wanted to try and be as positive as I can, and just sort of, because I'm a firm believer of having positive energy can like get you through the worst of times. I have quite a dark sense, well, not a dark sense of humor, but I try to have a sense of humor about a lot of the stuff. So it did help me to some extent.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, because that's like the thing I'm interested in, and again, it's something that obviously if you're not comfortable talking about, we won't talk about. But you come across, again, social-wise, just as a very positive, very bubbly, very energetic person. Was there like a particular like moment that stands out for you that was like a particular real low point through everything that you went through? Was there like a moment or a day that was particularly low, where like it was tough to even find that positivity?
I don't really. I'd say the toughest part was probably after my first treatment. I had a really high temperature, and I had to go to hospital, and this was at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So it was just a dash to the hospital, hooked me up to a drip, and sort of gave me all these meds, and it was one of those where I just started a treatment, so I was like, is this what it's going to be like throughout the whole thing? And that was quite tough, because you're sitting there in a hospital with a drip, and you're sort of going, is this like going to be normal now? Is this going to be in my life? Is this what it's going to be? But luckily it was just a one-off thing. But I'll be honest when I say I didn't really have any major tough points. Like I was quite fortunate in that I didn't have a lot of side effects. I wasn't too ill after chemo. It was just tiredness more than anything. So I'd say that was probably the only point I can think of where it was quite tough. That's the only thing I can think of.
No, I mean that's good to hear. Like if it was that, like not easy by any means, but like if that was the only low and it was relatively like, you managed to stay quite positive throughout it, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. I imagine though, like, again, having been on that upward trajectory in the ring that you were having, and then maybe like watching everyone else, because I mean I think like there are still some naysayers, there are still some like naysayers, and like I don't expect British wrestling anytime soon, at least, to get back to the level it was, say, 2018, 2019. Because that was like peak. That was huge. Even for British wrestling, I always thought that was ridiculous levels, the shows that some people were putting on and what they were selling. But like to see loads of people doing so well, is that tough, or does it make you more eager to get back when you're going through that? Is it like, I want to get back to this because these guys are doing great stuff and I want to be part of it?
Yeah, I would say it was a mixture of tough and sort of me being happy for people who I know that were like absolutely smashing it and getting to like all these opportunities. Like one person being Lance, like, because obviously we've worked together a few times and we've known from Wrestle Island, and to see him getting these opportunities that he was getting and getting on these shows, I was just like really happy for him. But then on the other side, I was kind of like, I really wish I was like getting these opportunities too. And I was sort of saying, well, you know what, this process is only temporary. I will get these opportunities again. It's just going to be at a later date. So it was a mixture of those kind of feelings, really, of like missing it and wishing it was me, but then being happy for the people who were getting those opportunities.
Yeah. And again, like you say, big up Lance. Like Lance is one of them. Like he just had a remarkable year. Like he totally deserves it as well. Like he should have got it. Like maybe even the first year of wrestling being back, or even like obviously if wrestling hadn't ended, he probably would have got it a lot sooner. But it's great to see that he's finally getting those flowers that he deserves, because he's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've been such a fan of his, and obviously known him for a while now, and he's a really nice guy. Outside of the ring, so it's just really good to see him sort of like you say, getting his flowers and getting those opportunities that he's deserved for a long time. And there's other people as well, like Ronnie Knox is another person who's sort of getting opportunities, and just I was happy for them, but sort of eagerly waiting for my turn at the same time.
For sure. And hopefully, like, that's not too far away. I mean, in terms of, obviously, like, COVID now, but obviously you mentioned getting back in the ring, but in terms of upcoming, like, this will go out from when we're recording next week, so not too far delayed. Like, can we expect to see you any other like maybe if you've not been announced or so, that's fine. But can we expect to see you in the ring other promotions at some point in the near future? Like what sort of time frame are we looking at before maybe other promotions can start seeing you?
So yeah, obviously I started training at the beginning of the year just to get my fitness back and just to get comfortable in the ring again. As I said, COVID, I've been ill for the past 2-3 weeks. And it sort of set me back a little bit, but hopefully after this week I can start training again, sort of getting my fitness back and, just getting back in the gym and getting back in the ring and getting back to it. Got a few bookings coming up at the end of this month and next month. So I think one of them is for FTG Wrestling at the end of this month. Another one for PW next month, I believe. So yeah, there's a few like opportunities coming up and shows lined up. There's a couple more, but I've not been announced yet, so I won't say. But,
no, sure. We don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. We don't want to give anything away prematurely. No, I get that. No, that's cool. That's fine. That's good to hear. It's good to hear you're getting back into it. What about starting training again when you started in like the beginning of the year? Like how did that feel? Like even just as warm up, like getting back in the ring or like starting that sort of cardio and stuff again? Does that sort of knock you out a bit at first? Like, it's been a while.
It was a little bit, yeah. It was just, I said I would try and keep my fitness up throughout all my treatment, but the reality was like I just didn't have the energy. So my fitness suffered a little bit, and it was difficult to get back into it. But it will come again. Like I'll get my stamina back. I'll get my fitness back. It's just going to take some time, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. Once again, like COVID's thrown me off track a little bit, but once I get back to it and sort of get into a rhythm and sort of keep going and going, I should get there. But it was emotional again, getting back in the ring again. But and it was a really cold evening, if I remember correctly. So it was freezing cold. Like the place I trained, which is from the ground up School of Wrestling in Leicester. It's like a little these old Victorian like warehouses that's been converted, and it's like when it's cold, it's cold. And it's one of those. It was one of those where you could see your breath when you were breathing, and I was just like, pick the right day for it. But,
it's getting back in the hard way, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's never going to be an easy way, so I thought I might as well just bite the bullet and just get on with it.
Yeah. How did it feel like again putting on the gear like for the first time? Is that like, do you feel like you're back in it at that point? Is that like what was the moment you felt you were like back in it? Was it going through the curtain, that show, or was it like putting on the gear?
I'd say it was going through the curtain, like to just which I didn't actually have my gear with me, so I had to just pretty much wear what I was wearing. But I'd say going through the curtain and obviously hearing the music, and that was the moment where I was like, yeah.
Oh, in that case, I got to ask, how do you think it's going to feel putting on the gear as well? Like, we're talking full, like, how do you think that's going to feel the first time you do it back in the ring? Like, the hat and the jacket and everything.
Yeah.
Like, are you looking forward to that moment?
I am looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to feel strange. Don't know how it's going to fit. That's going to be another question. We'll work that out when we get to it. I've literally not even touched it. Like, I obviously washed before I started wrestling. I washed it and I put it away, but I've not touched it since like that last show for Resurgence. So it's going to be another emotional moment, but it's going to be emotional.
Yeah, no, can't wait for it. It's going to be amazing, I'm sure. And again, well, you mentioned like don't know how it's going to fit. This is a key thing I want to bring up with you, because there's a few things we got to talk about here. The first thing was that I noticed during all of this, when you were giving yourself, your treat days, which you deserve ultimately, like with everything you were going through.
Yeah.
But I noticed the fact that you're very partial to the KFC. That was like the go-to, it seems, right? That was like the ultimate, like, I need a pick-me-up meal, right?
I am partial to a KFC, while you have chemo, you can't really have fast food or takeaway.
What is that? Is that like something to do with how it reacts with your body, or like?
It's basically just because your immune system's so low, you're just at risk of obviously quite like getting in and like cross contamination and
Right.
everything like that. So they advise you not to eat it. So like I literally didn't have a McDonald's for 4 months.
Oof.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
KFC is definitely a go-to. I'm a big fan of food, which has been my downfall these past few months. I need to get off that and sort of get on some sort of diet, which is going to be tough. But any and all types of food, really.
But I think that's the thing, right? You deserve it, right? Like not going without fast food for 4 months, going through what you've been through. Like you deserve a couple of months of like, fuck it, I want a KFC, right?
Yeah. I think I'm past that point now, though. I think I need to think about how am I going to get in those purple trunks again. But yeah, I am a fan of food.
No, that's good. Sure. That's good. We've got a couple of food-based questions coming up later, so I won't ruin too much. We won't delve too much into the fast food because I'm looking forward to those. But one thing I want to go on to, we'll talk about the promotion afterwards, because the promotion itself. But another thing that you rave about and many others do is the Wrestle Island sausage roll, right? I've heard legendary things about this. And being based in London, it is very difficult for me to get up to Wrestle Island. So I've not had the pleasure of trying to be it. But they have this like almost godlike status among BritRes food. I mean, are they really that good?
They're amazing. Like honestly, I'm not joking when I say it's one of the best sausage rolls I've ever had. Cause I think I went to a couple of shows where I didn't try one, and then someone was like, "You've got to try this sausage roll." So I remember after doing my match, I sort of snuck down and grabbed one from the bar where they sold them, and it's beautiful.
Is it like that sort of like kind of moment where like you take that first bite and you're like,
yeah, it was just like, why have I not had one of these before? And they are stuff of legends. Like if you ever go to Wrestle Island, you make sure you have one of those sausage rolls. Like
it's like the must-do. The wrestling's almost secondary. It's just you go for the sausage roll and you get a side of wrestling.
Yeah, you always need to start a Wrestle Scran account. You know, you have a football Scran.
To be fair,
Wrestle Scran account.
I might have to start that. We might have to start that as Grapple Theory. We'll have the Grapple Theory Scran account.
Absolutely.
Everyone shows us their like wrestling food. I think this could work. I think this could be a thing. I like
Absolutely.
This. I like that idea. Well, let's talk about Wrestle Island because, again, somewhere that you're very well known for in terms of your appearances there. You always talk highly about. They always talk highly about you. Like, talk to me about because they again since wrestling came back seem to have just been doing incredibly. Like train strikes, no big deal, sold out show and things like that. Like they're just putting on great performances, and it's really great to seeing them. Almost alongside Lance, like getting their flowers and people starting to sit up and take notice and like, oh shit, like. Like TNT's known as the main promotion in Liverpool, but these guys are doing something super special.
Yeah, it's just there's just so many different things about it that make them unique and sort of a proper like indie promotion. Like you say, the crowd, the numbers they pull in, the crowds that they have. It's always I always enjoy going up to Birkenhead and sort of working in front of that crowd. They're just fantastic, and like especially. I went to one of the shows at the start of the year again and like sort of did a guest GM like spot, and I got a really good reception, which was lovely. But yeah, it's just a really good crowd, it's a really good venue. The matches, obviously, they always have some sort of crazy stipulations or sort of crazy rules. I mean, I remember I was in one called the Money Heist or the Island Heist match, which was basically based on I've never watched this show, so I apologise in advance. But is it Money Heist?
Yeah,
or it's based on that Netflix show, and basically it was this sort of it was almost like a mini rumble, but whenever some sort of music played, everyone had to stop and dance with someone, and if you didn't dance, you got eliminated, and it. Yeah, they have all sorts of gimmicks like that and sort of crazy matches, and that's what makes them stand out because they're just so creative.
They just put on just wild match. I just love the brain behind it. Like some of the stipulations are just ridiculous.
It's fantastic. Like I said, it's just so creative, and it really challenges you as a wrestler as well, because you sort of have to work with these rules and sort of make them work, and like I said, and the locker room always has a really good vibe as well. There's a lot of really great people there who I've come to should say like I get on really well with. So you know, this if you ever go there, you'll see why the shows are so successful. It's just overall a really good vibe, and it's just a really out there and creative promotion.
Oh, it's a great place. It's great, and that conveniently, it's almost as if I meant it, brings us on to our first feature. Because you mentioned the locker room and you mentioned getting on with people there. You might not get on with them too well after this, because this feature is called Dishing the Dirt. And we're going to ask you a few questions, and I want you specifically to tell me members of the Wrestle Island locker room that you think each thing most applies to.
Okay.
So you can use multiple people for each one, and that's fine. That's not a problem. If I'm honest, a lot of these are quite nice, I think. A lot of these, none of them are too dirt-worthy. There are a couple that might get you a bit of heat, but not too many.
So I'll just say I've not been there for a while, so like I'll just feign ignorance.
That's fine. That's fine. Just in terms of it's like just from what you know, or like actually, yeah, it doesn't even need to be Wrestle Island, but just from like who you know in the locker room.
Okay.
Anywhere, yeah. Let's open it up. Let's not say just Wrestle Island, but let's say who you know anywhere. Which wrestler just springs to mind when I say each thing?
Okay.
And again, like if you've not been around the locker room for a while, people's behaviours may have changed, but we're going based on what you know at this moment.
Okay. Right.
So the first one is who's always the really like the early bird? Who always gets to the venue just ridiculously early?
Oh, I'd say that's usually me. Like I'm really a stickler because especially if I'm traveling, like I'll try and get there early just to avoid like traffic. So yeah, if they give me a time, I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm going. So I know it's a cop out, but I'll say me.
No, that's fine. That's fine. A lot of people, to be honest, a lot of people we've had on the podcast have said themselves for the early bird one, which is odd. So like either they're just too modest to say, or everyone we interview is just very early for shows, which is fine. That's fine. The next one is who makes you laugh the most? Who's the biggest comedian?
Oof.
Who can you always count on to make you chuckle?
I remember Mad Kurt being quite funny when I was backstage at Resurgence. I think he's trying to balance on some. I can't remember what it was. I think it was a basketball. He's trying to balance on a basketball while sitting cross-legged. It was the Rumble show, and we were just waiting backstage, and he was just trying to balance on this basketball, and he was adamant he was going to do it. But it kept me mild. It did really actually keep me entertained. So
love that.
Yeah, I'd say Mad Kurt. Nice.
The next one is this is one of the ones that will get you heat, depending on who you say. Who has the worst music taste? And of course, music's subjective. You know, this is just in your opinion. But like, in your opinion, who puts something on and then you're like, oh, that is just terrible music?
This is hard for me because I'm quite an eclectic music person, so I can go either way. That's tricky. It's hard, but it's also I'm not really up on newer music, so a lot of it I kind of just don't really know.
There's been that thing though, isn't there? That's been a trend like the last couple of years. It's all been about nostalgia, right? Like I swear there's not been any new music this year. It's just been old bands coming back.
Yeah, it's a lot of retro stuff, isn't it? I don't really know.
That's a compliment, I think, to a lot of the locker room, right? That you don't cringe at anyone's music taste.
No, you have to have some. It has to be really bad for me to go, wow, that's that shit.
What is that though? Like not in terms of maybe a person, but like in terms of artists or something. Like, is there anyone who like is that for you where you're like, I can't stand that?
I'd say maybe like classical music or sort of like Euro pop. I mean, I remember speaking to Polish Barry at Wrestle Island, and he mentioned some like Polish hip hop, and I was like, I can't imagine how that sounds like. Which I couldn't really picture it in my head. Well, sort of figure it in my head, but. I mean, that's not exactly bad. But,
no, I mean, I've got to get Polish Barry on the podcast because my partner's Polish as well, and she's always talking to me about Polish music. Like, she's like, oh, this Polish rock band that I used to listen to growing up. I'm like, no, I don't want to listen to that. So that might have to be... I might have to get her to host it, and they can just do the whole podcast in Polish.
Oh, you should get Barry on. Like, he's a good guy.
He's brilliant, isn't he? He is brilliant. Someone, again, who's like really rising the ranks as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. The next one is again sort of like, well, You mentioned food. We mentioned food earlier. We've spoken about food before. But, like, again, just from what you remember, like, does anyone bring really good food to the locker room? Like, any good, like, snacks or, like, their pre-show, like, meal or something that they carb up on or whatever?
I remember, so the super athletes, so that's Chris Daniels and Troy Bartram. I remember meeting them at a UBW show I think it was last year. And I've seen them at PW4U as well. And they always seem to have these amazing looking, like, pre-packed meals.
Nice.
And you can see they're loaded with protein and they look amazing. I low-key just sort of look at them and I sort of go...
You're like, God damn it.
Yeah, I'm literally like, I've got this sandwich I got from Sainsbury's as part of a meal deal, and you've got this, like, load of chicken and rice that looks like it could feed 2 people.
Yeah, it's like the, what is it? I mean, have you seen Harry Potter? You watch Harry Potter?
I've seen a few of them.
Okay, so, like, the way I equate that, as you said it, is, like, in the first film, where, like, they're on the train for the first time and Ron's got his, like, grim sandwich and Harry just buys out, like, the sweet trolley.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's sort of what I equate that to from what you said.
Yeah, but it was literally, I just remember looking at it going, wow, like, yeah, they've really put thought into this. I've just gone to a shop and just, like, got whatever's cheap. But yeah, I'll say the super athletes.
Nice, yeah, that makes sense. This one, again, like the music one, is the only other one that could get you some real heat. But I feel like there can't be a way out this one. I feel like you've got to answer this one because this isn't in the ring now. This is outside the ring, just in people's personal lives. Who has the worst dress sense?
This is I'm trying to think now. I'm racking my brains to see who. I'm gonna say Polish Barry again.
Some of the stuff he posts on Twitter, to be fair, of like the way he's dressed is absurd.
Oh yeah, like I've seen him wear like crop tops and like I've just been like, you're brave, man. Like seriously, I don't know how. Like fair play for you if you're having the balls to wear that, but I have to question it. Just, yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this is on the nicer end of the spectrum because it's in the ring.
Okay.
But it's very similar, still clothing wise. Again, sort of like when you mentioned not having your ring gear earlier. You go up to a show and you don't have your ring gear and you need to borrow someone's ring gear. And let's say like we're talking like one size fits all kind of deal in this hypothetical scenario. Like you can pick anyone's ring gear and it'll fit you perfectly and make you look good. Whose ring gear would you want? Whose do you look at and you're like, you know what, I could pull that off?
I would say probably Lance's.
Yeah.
I dig Lance's gear. I said this the first time I met him. The first time I saw him, I was like, his gear is class. Always has like a big print of like some sort of photographic print on his tights, and I was like, they look class. So I'm gonna say Lance.
Nice, I like that. That's good. That question was like inspired. We mentioned him earlier, but that question was inspired by Mad Kurt because he talked to me about this show one time where he forgot his gear and he had to wear Ojmos. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that just seems ridiculous.
Sounds like him.
Yeah,
sounds like.
I think he said someone like someone he'd wanted to like a show he'd wanted to be on for ages came to watch him, and he wasn't even wearing his own gear. He was wearing like Ojmo's gear. I was like, that's really weird.
It's just typical, isn't it? It's just typical.
Love that. I love that. The next one, there's only a couple more, but the next one is who do you think would throw the best party? Like if you, again, hypothetically, everyone in the locker room is hosting a party on the same night, and they've all invited you, but you can only pick one. Who's you going to? Who's do you think that's the party to go to?
I'd like to say, I'd say Act 2.
Nice, yeah.
I think Jack and Ben would have some decent, like, have a decent party. I'd like to think so anyway.
Yeah, I think
they're my boys. They have to be.
I think you're right, and then you'd be disappointed when you get there and they haven't. You'd be like, guys, I backed you. What are you doing?
Yeah. That lo and behold, sod's law, that would be the case. But no, I'm confident they'd have something going on.
Love it. And the final one is I think it's my favourite of the whole list. Is who would you choose to help defend you in the zombie apocalypse? who do you think would be the best, either the best barrier or the best lackey or the best, feed him to the wolves kind of person? However you want to play it, you're in control here in this scenario. But like, who do you think would be the best person to partner with in the zombie apocalypse?
Henchman Jim Diard, a big Jim Diard. Absolutely.
Proper block you off, yeah.
Yeah, you need some muscle, and like Jim would be the guy, and I'm sure he'd be up for taking some zombies' heads off. So, my guy.
I love that. Brilliant. Well, we got another feature to end the podcast, and that'll be coming up in a little bit. But again, we've talked about sort of like your upcoming return. I just imagine you must just be like so buzzing to get back to doing it sort of like week in, week out.
Yeah, I'm just raring to go. Obviously, I've got a ways to go before I'm like back to 100%. But I'm just excited to get back to normal and sort of like get traveling and sort of getting back to seeing people I've not seen for a while and working crowds I've not been in front of for a while, and obviously new crowds as well. So yeah, it's all good vibes, I would say.
What are we talking about in terms of, say, like wrestlers or promotions you particularly want to face or be at? Like, are there any particular in your mind where, say, like you were like, by the end of the year, if I could debut here or like face this person, that'd be a real win?
So I'd say people-wise, definitely Crowley is someone I'd love to
That would
face.
be, Crowley versus Choccy Thunder would be such a mix of like just characters in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm a big fan of his. Like, absolutely massive fan. I love the stuff he puts on socials, and like just his overall character is just incredible. So yeah, I'd love to have a match with him. RJ Singh, as obviously as a British Asian wrestler, like he's obviously carried the flag for us for a while, so it'd be good to get in the ring with him and sort of work a match with him. Obviously, just to get out there again would be fantastic. Promotions wise, I've been to quite a few places in the Northwest. I'd love to work with TNT. Obviously, some more promotions down south as well, because I've not really cracked into any like of the south promotions.
Yeah, gotta get you to London.
Absolutely, yeah. Most of the stuff I do is up north. I mean, I've been around the southwest as well, but definitely would love to do some more small promotions in London, like that area.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I wanted to ask you, actually, I was going to come on to it a little later, but as you mentioned RJ as well, because we had RJ on the podcast a few weeks ago. We had Amir Jordan on the podcast recently as well. And something that, again, is like someone who's got like a Middle Eastern background is something that, like, I'm just curious about how you see like the sort of like British Asian community or British Middle Eastern / Asian community in BritWres, because like it doesn't seem like there's many wrestlers flying that flag. Obviously, like those that do, you all fly it like really proudly, and it's great to see. But do you think that's something that BritWres can be doing better in terms of maybe, I guess you'd call it inclusivity, or like trying to get those communities involved a bit more as well, like getting wrestlers through from those backgrounds?
I think there are more people coming through. Obviously, like you say, you mentioned RJ, Amir Jordan. You've got Sheikh Osham as well. Kanji is obviously flying the flag for the women as well. I've seen a few people coming through of like Asian, like Middle Eastern descent. That I'd love to work with, and it's getting there. But yeah, there's definitely a need for more representation. It's never a bad thing for like all minorities in British wrestling. I'd say we're getting there slowly but surely, but there's still a lot of work to be done for me personally.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? We did for Black History Month, we did a whole like series on black wrestlers. Obviously, we spoke to Roy Johnson as part of it. He does his Everything Pattern show, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And like you see how stacked those shows are. Like he's got another one I think next week in London as part of Restival. And like you see how stacked those shows are, and you're like, loads of promotions around the country should be like some of them they are, but like loads of promotions around the country should be booking these people, and yet you still have like posters where like everyone is a white male, and it's just baffling.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I mean when I say there's work to be done. And I understand, to an extent, I understand that there's reasons for that. Maybe it's just there's a budget, and there's limitations on how much you can spend on talent and things like that. But there needs to be some sort of effort for me personally for this to sort of, for there to be more inclusivity and a more broader range of talent on shows. I'd say, like I say, it's getting there slowly but surely, but there's still work to be done. You know, there's I've seen quite a few young British Asian wrestlers coming through, like on socials, and it's good to see. It's really good to see. You know, it's nice to be not the only brown person on the show.
Yeah.
I remember like that resurgence. I know I keep mentioning it, but that resurgence show, there was me, Harry Singh, and Kanji on the show. Like, and I was like, I remember all three of us were like, well, I don't think we've had this before, where there's been three of us like on one show, and it was almost like a weird but nice feeling.
For sure, like that's important, isn't it? Like both as a wrestler and like for people in the audience to see as well, right? Who might also be like Middle Eastern or Asian and come to the show and like see people representing them. Yeah, like that's important, isn't it? That's how you get more people involved and more people interested.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I'd love to be. I love it, like for a kid to sort of, or a young Asian kid to see me at a show and for them to go, you know what, I'd love to do that, or I'd want to do that, and that's the kind of thing I want to see. And you know, if they can do it better than me, hell yeah, go for it. Wouldn't take much, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I want to see. Just more people, from ethnic minorities. It shows. Yeah, fantastic.
You say that until they appear at Wrestle Island and start eating all the sausage rolls and you don't get them, and then you're going to be angry. Then you're going to be like, how fucking dare they?
Hey, we will eat our fair share, don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we got a couple of like closing features here. The first one is one that I've been really looking forward to, specifically to talk about with you, because it's called What's in a Name, and it's very self-explanatory. I just want to know the roots. Where did Choccy Thunder come from? And elaborating on it, in your mind, what does it take to be Choccy Thunder? Like, if someone, the way I describe it is like, if you had to hire a substitute Choccy Thunder for a show, what would that person need to have to meet the criteria to be able to go out there and be Choccy Thunder?
So the origins of the name, this sounds completely strange, but this is pretty much how it happened. Obviously we were training, like we were doing wrestling training, and we were doing promo classes, which is basically where you get up in front of the class and cut a promo. I didn't have a gimmick at this point, so I was just sort of experimenting, and I referred to myself during this promo I was doing as Chocolate Thunder, and I got that idea because when Scott Steiner debuted as part of the NWO in WCW, they called him White Thunder. So I thought, well, I could flip that for me and call myself Chocolate Thunder. I genuinely wasn't aware this was an actual term at the time.
I was going to say, it's been in like a few movies and TV shows and stuff, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I genuinely never heard it before, so I thought it was something you but anyway, and I referred to myself as Chocolate Thunder, and it got a pop from people, and they're like, you should go with that. And so from there, I sort of ran with it and developed the character, and that's where it came from. And to answer the second part of the question, what do you have to be Chocolate Thunder? It's just have a sort of almost carefree attitude and not care what people think of you, not care of what you're wearing, what people will think of what you're wearing or how you act, and just almost have this freedom of expression. Like I used to say that Chocolate Thunder is almost an alter ego of mine, because he's like almost a polar opposite. But thinking about it more, there's probably a lot of more of me in Chocolate Thunder than I like to think. So like I like the finer things in life, and Chocolate Thunder is the same. He would like the finer things in life. So there's probably more of me in Chocolate Thunder than I think. So I'd say it's just not caring what people think of you. You need to have that swagger.
Yeah, and you got to look good in purple.
Oh, 100%. You've got to rock. Well, you've got to rock anything you wear. You've got to own it. Whether it be a purple jacket or a crazy hat. So yeah. those were the origins, and that's their sort of vibe.
Love
I'd
that.
say.
Love that. Well, that brings us nicely onto our final feature of the show. And this is about you now. This isn't about Choccy Thunder now. This is about you, and this is the shoot, and this is called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler. And it's essentially what makes you you, which is sort of what we talked about at points during this podcast anyway. But this is more of a quick fire, like I'll give you the topics and you let me know what comes to mind.
Okay.
So the first one is the classic wrestling one. It's what's your favourite post-pinfall pig out?
Post-pinfall, sorry, payout?
Pig out.
Say? Oh, pig out?
Yeah.
I'd say good old McDonald's.
Nice, classic. What'd you go for?
Oof, I always like the novelty burgers. So, like, say if they have like a big tasty, I'll go for a big tasty. Chicken Big Mac, immense.
Is it? I've not tried it yet, but like, I've only, to be honest, I've only ever seen it on TV, like, because I know it's like the India exclusive, isn't it? It's what they normally have in India, like that, instead of the beef. Yeah. And then they brought it over, but I haven't got it when they've had it over here.
Oh yeah, I really liked it. I absolutely loved it when they brought it out the first time. But always a Macca's is classic.
Yeah,
and a nice sugary drink to go with it as well.
Well, see, I'm partial to a Macca's as well, so I need to know just for my next order if they have it. Is the chicken Big Mac better than like the chicken sandwich?
100%, yes.
Right, okay.
Because you've got the Big Mac sauce with it as well, so
that's the bit I'm unsure about, like whether that would go together.
It does. For me, it does. Like I know, I've spoken to a few people who say they don't like it, but for me personally, like it's a double chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Like, how could you not like a double chicken sandwich?
I mean, if Choccy Thunder's recommending it, then I'll try it. I'll give it a go. I'll trust your judgment on that.
100%.
The other food-based one in this list is what would be your like death row meal, your last meal?
That's a good one. You know what? I love junk food. I 100% love junk food. I'd have to say like a KFC, a fried chicken meal for me personally, like a bucket.
Nice.
I would make the most of it. Like
3 buckets.
It's like I would eat as much as I physically could. 3 buckets, a Zinger Tower burger, which for me is the daddy of all burgers.
Yeah, my partner gets that. I get the non-Zinger option, but it's not a spice thing. I just don't like the sauce particularly.
Okay, I get that.
Because I can handle my spice. It's more like I don't like the taste of the sauce with the chicken. But I do go the tower. You got to go the tower, right, with the hash brown.
100%. You got to have the hash brown in there. That's like a given.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go say a KFC and I would order as much as I could and devour as much as I could.
I love that, just based on what you said earlier, like literally 2 minutes ago, where you were like, yeah, I like the finer things.
Yeah, sometimes I like the finer things, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just, you just gotta get a KFC bucket and just eat it in one sitting.
Love it. The next one, it's non-food related now. A non-food related one is the song that gets me the most hyped.
I think I would say personally for me it's probably, this is my gym playlist, so it's always Slipknot songs.
Nice.
I can't name a specific one. I'd say maybe Wait and Bleed.
Yeah,
is a good one. Another one is that comes because I've got a gym playlist and it's based on like new metal.
No, it's fine. I'm very partial to that. I'm a big fan, so that's
and it's the old Raw intro music. I can't remember who sang it, but you know what I mean. Move to the music. Yeah. That always comes on the playlist, and I'm always just like, oh yeah.
Rob Zombie, I think, isn't it?
I think
maybe I'm thinking something else.
It might be someone. I want to say Fuel or someone, but I couldn't.
It might be Fuel. I think I'm thinking of a different song. Rob Zombie does a similar one though, where he's like,
yeah. I can't think of the life of me who did it, but it always comes on, and I'm always just like, I start like pushing it up a gear. So
the one that gets me like that is the only thing that WWE got right about their relaunch of ECW when Bodies was the intro music.
Oh yeah.
That was the only good thing WWE did for ECW, and it still gets me whenever that comes on. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's just huge. Yeah, I agree with that.
Nice. The next one is the movie that I'd show the locker room.
movie that I showed a locker room.
Yeah. So I always say, like, it doesn't have to be, like, your favourite movie, but the movie you think everyone should see at some point.
Eesh. See, do I go down the humour angle, or do I go for something that I think is profoundly incredible?
This is the question. You got to decide what the locker room's gonna like.
Oof. I mean, comedy is sort of like the go-to, isn't it? But then comedy is quite subjective.
It is.
I mean, my favourite comedy movie of all time has got to be Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Fuck yeah! What a film!
Yeah, it's one of my favourite films of all time. So I'd say that if we were talking comedy, if we're talking something that blew my mind, possibly Memento. I don't know if you've heard that film.
Yeah.
Memento, the first time I watched it blew my mind. It was just like, wow, this is an incredible film.
Nice.
So yeah, I'd say one of those two films.
Like, I'd choose Ace Ventura personally out of the two. Like,
yeah, 100%.
As soon as you said that, the only thing now going through my mind is the where they first discover the guy's body, and like he goes out on the balcony, he's like, oh, like
yeah.
That's like one of the greatest movie moments ever.
Oh, it's fantastic. There's so many quotable moments. Like my favourite line is, "If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer." Just brilliant quote.
Yeah,
I always quote it.
Oh, I fucking love Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's brilliant. Yeah, great. I need to watch that. I haven't watched that in ages. I need to watch that soon. Need to watch that soon. The next one's a bit of a throwback because it's your first job.
Oh, yeah. So my very, very first job was it was basically a Christmas job, so I could earn money to buy Christmas presents. I worked at Wilkinson's.
Classic.
In my local city centre.
Love it.
Which was literally just like part-time and just to get money for Christmas, and yeah, it was as bad as you could imagine.
I mean, going in first job at Christmas is throwing yourself in the deep end again, isn't it? That's like...
Yeah. I was on the shop floor as well, and I remember at one point I was young and stupid at this point, and someone asked me for a colander, and I had no idea what a colander was. It was like the first time I'd ever heard that word, and I remember traipsing around the store for like 10 minutes, just like, I've no idea what I'm looking for, I've no idea what this person's asking for, and in the end I just sort of, I think I passed them over to someone else because I had no clue. But yeah, that was a particular high moment.
I was going to say though, is this like a regional dialect kind of thing whereby you know what a colander is, but you call it something else?
No, I just didn't know what a colander was. I'd never heard the term in my life. As I said, I was young and just completely wet behind the ears, so I was just a bit like, I don't know what you're asking for.
You'd never drained pasta before?
No, not. They clearly hadn't. Otherwise, I'd probably know what they were asking for. But, I got busted by the manager for playing a pinball machine, even though they said you could do that to demo it for kids.
Oh, okay, that's good. At least it's that. I thought you were going to say you got busted by the manager for not knowing what a colander was, and I was like, that seems a bit harsh. Like.
Yeah, I think they knew that I wasn't in it for the long haul, so yeah.
That's fair. Fair enough. Retail is always a classic first job, right? But at Christmas, that's hell. That is bad.
Oh, yeah.
That is bad. The next one gets a little deep because it's my greatest fear.
Oof. I'd say needles, which was a real big thing, considering like my treatment involved a lot of needles.
It feels like you would have got over it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I did to a degree, but I'm still not a huge fan. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Saw 2.
I've seen parts of Saw 2, and I know the bit you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit, for people who haven't watched it. There's a bit in the film where they have a pit full of syringes, and someone gets pushed into it. And I remember the first time I was watching it with a group of friends, and that scene came on. I literally had to leave the room because I was like, I know it's going to happen, and I don't want to see it. And yeah.
Do you know I think there's a behind the scenes thing, a story about that, where like the actress who fell in the needles has a fear of needles as well. So they replaced it all with fake needles, but I think they left like one real needle in accidentally. And like, yeah, that's gotta be bad.
I'd have flipped. I'd have absolutely point blank refused to do it.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm better than I used to be, but even now I'm just a bit. I dread it.
Yeah,
Absolutely
no, I get
dread
that.
it.
I get that. Well, onto lighter things. The next one is my favourite animal.
Kangaroo.
Oh, that's a great shout. That's a very
kangaroo.
out there shout.
They always. I mean, they could probably kill you.
Yeah.
Like, if you really wanted to. Like.
Oh, you've seen some of them. I'm sure you've seen some of like the viral videos, like ones that look just like absolutely henge.
Yeah, and you got that one that took a full-on punch on Manasseh, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the shreddy of kangaroos, right? Like he's absolutely jacked.
Yeah, they can balance on the tails because they've obviously got really strong muscles. So, I'd say kangaroo or chimpanzee, but kangaroo.
Nice, great choice. That first person to say kangaroo, so I like that.
Wow, yeah,
big honor there. The next one is my favourite wrestling match stipulation. So like a few people have asked this, but like we're talking anything here. Like you can go singles match, or you can go like Royal Rumble or Survivor Series match, or like literally any kind of match. Like a singles match counts as a stipulation in this question.
I've always been a fan of cage matches.
Nice.
Just watching, and I'd love to do one. I've never done one before, but yeah, just the fact that you've got this structure to get out of, and there's the drama of is he going to get it out, or they're going to get out, or they're climbing to the top, they're going to do something. Because I remember when I used to watch wrestling, when I watched wrestling like as a kid, and you watch WWE or WCW back when I was watching it. And when they said that we've got a cage match tonight, I'd be like,
yeah, you knew shit was going down.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh my god, this is gonna be crap. This is gonna be amazing. Because I remember watching cage matches from there, and they were always incredible. So yeah, I'd say cage match. For
nice, me. Love it. Next one is only a couple left. The next one's my favourite place in the world.
Ooh, trying to think. My favourite place in the world, I would say, of all the places I've visited in the world, I would say is Rome.
Nice.
I'm fairly well travelled, but yeah, Rome is a place that I remember like I've been twice, and every time I'd be like, I could live here.
Yeah, lovely place.
Sure I could live here, and yeah, it's a beautiful place. I'd say Rome.
Nice. And the final one is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Let's say somewhere you haven't been, because it's my dream holiday destination.
Japan.
The classic.
Always wanted to go to Japan, like just for the culture, and obviously just to say I've been there, and sort of you see it all the time, even not even for wrestling, just for like traveling and just like I said, I'm a big video gamer, so like dream destination for me. So yeah, Japan.
Love that. Well, we got a couple of final questions for you. This one, I don't know if you've seen it. Do you know the Diary of a CEO podcast?
I haven't heard that myself.
Okay, so it's this guy. He's got millions of followers. He's fantastic, like this entrepreneur. He basically interviews like celebrities mainly. But I stole this from him because I love the concept of it, and it's the fact that each show, the guest that's on leaves a question for the next guest. And so you're not allowed to know who that question is from. So we've got a question here for you, asked by the last person I interviewed, and I'm going to pose it to you. I can take who it's from after, but for now you're not allowed to know, because we've learned that context is key.
Right.
And so lack of context makes the question a lot more entertaining.
Okay.
So the question that has been left to you by our last guest is, what was your most embarrassing moment in wrestling?
Embarrassing moment. Oof. Trying to think now.
I would suggest that for this, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the ring, but maybe if you've been at a show and you've embarrassed yourself in front of someone or something, that would still count.
So I remember one time at one show for one promotion, I was a tag team champion, and I forgot to bring the belt with me. So literally forgot the one thing I needed to signify that I was a tag team champion, and I had to go home. Luckily, it wasn't that far away. Go home and grab the belt, and in doing so, long story short, I dropped a concrete slab on my toe, my big toe. Now, it hurt a lot, but I got the belt, went home, went to the show and did the show, and my toe was throbbing to the point, and I remember looking at the nail and it was like turning black, so I was like, this is bad. And yeah, I think the adrenaline got me through the match, but afterwards we went to a Wetherspoons for some drinks, and it was just throbbing, and yeah, it bled under the nail, and eventually the nail fell off. So yeah, long story short, forgetting my tag team championship belt
led to you losing your toenail.
Yes, yeah, it did. Yeah, which incredible story.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I love it. Well, we'll get your question for the next guest after we finish recording. Okay. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. And Choccy Thunder, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have indeed. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Good. And like, just personally, like, genuinely, congratulations for everything, because like, it was great to see you beating cancer, and it's great to see like the fight you put up against it and how positive you've been throughout it and everything. And really looking forward to seeing you back in the ring, because you seriously deserve it. Just congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us on to our final question, because we always give our guest one final bit of promo time. So if anywhere like Wrestle Island or anywhere else in the country, you're wrestling a show, Resurgence or PW or wherever it may be, and someone sees you on the card and comes to check you out, why is Choccy Thunder going to steal the show?
Because that's what he's born to do. Like, he is the main attraction wherever he goes. There are not many people in this earth who can rock a purple jacket and an officer's hat. I'm one of them. So that's enough of a reason to see me. Like, you're not going to see anyone else like me in British wrestling. That's the selling point. I always like to bring something different to the table, and something that people are going to remember when they're on the journey home, when they go, do you remember that guy with the jacket and the glasses and the hat? So that's me all over. Like, no one else can do what I do.
Love it.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that does.